Good morning, students. Today we are going to do the second part of the chapter People as Resource. In this chapter, we are going to do now the second part, that is economic activities by men and women. We have seen two stories of Vilas and Sakal. We have seen that both of them were engaged in different activities. Vilas was catching fish and selling fish, and Sakal got a job in the firm. So these are the two different types of the jobs which they were doing. So on the basis of work which the people do in an economy, there are three sectors of an economy. They are primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. When we talk about primary sector, it is the sector in which the work is done which is related with nature. So the work done in relation to nature or directly in relation to nature, the type of work is called as primary sector. And here few examples are given. Agriculture, forestry, animal husbandry, fishing, poultry farming, mining, quarrying. These are few examples of primary sector. Now, why the term is given to these activities as primary? Number one, because they are directly related with the nature. Second, these primary products become the base for the other sectors. For example, raw material which is produced in the agriculture sector, that becomes a raw material for the secondary sector. So that is why this sector is called as primary sector. This sector can also be called as agriculture sector. Then we have the second sector, which is called as secondary sector, or it is also called as manufacturing sector. It can be called as manufacturing sector also. For example, we have trade, we have transport, we have no, they have not given these examples, children. It is manufacturing sector or the secondary sector. In secondary sector, it is transformation of the goods. The raw materials are converted into finished products. For example, in an industry or in a factory, when the raw materials are converted into a finished product, for example, sugarcane is converted into sugar or jaggery. That is called as your manufacturing sector or the secondary sector. Now, manufacturing doesn't mean it has to take place only in the factories or industries. It can be done even in the household sector also. For example, making of the matchsticks, that is also conversion of the raw material into a finished product. That also comes under the secondary sector. Then we have third sector, which is called as tertiary sector. So the examples given here for the tertiary sector, we have examples like trade, transport, communication, banking, education, health, tourism, all these services, insurance also, all of them they come under the tertiary sector. So is tertiary sector producing any goods? Answer is no. It is only primary and secondary sector which produces the goods or products. But tertiary sector, they render their services. That means they give their services to the people. For example, a bus driver who is dropping you from your home to the school, he is giving you a service. So his service comes under the tertiary sector. A teacher is teaching you, she is imparting her skills to you. So that is again a tertiary sector. A doctor gives a service to the people, that again comes under the tertiary sector. So these are the three economic activities on the basis of their work: primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. And these activities, especially the primary and the secondary sector, they result in the production of goods and services. And the tertiary sector helps the primary and secondary sector in distribution of these goods and services. And these activities, whether it is primary or secondary or tertiary, all these activities, they add value to the national income. Because when these activities are performed, for example, if a person is converting a raw material into finished product and selling, that person will earn an income. So that income is adding to the national income. In the same way, a doctor or a teacher or maybe a person who is selling these goods, so these people also earn income, and that also is adding to the national income. These activities, so all these activities which are adding value to the national income are called as economic activities. They are called as economic activities. So what are the economic activities? Economic activities are the activities which add value to the national income. Now it can be a primary activity, it can be a secondary activity, or it can be even a tertiary activity. So this economic activities further is also divided into two types of economic activities. One is market activity and the other one is non-market activity. Now, what is a market activity? Market here means where the goods are bought and sold. That is a market. Okay, so market means where the goods are bought and sold. When we talk about market activities, they are those activities which gives an income to anyone who performs this activity, because after performing this activity, the goods are sold in the market and they get pay or a profit out of that. For example, if a farmer is producing wheat, he will sell that wheat in the market. If he is selling the wheat in the market, he is getting the profit. That means he is doing a market activity. So these include production of goods or services, even the government service also. So a person who is working in a government office or maybe a private office who is earning an income, that because they are rendering their service and earning an income, so that is also called as economic activity. We come to the next one, that is the second part of the economic activities, which is called as non-economic activities. Now, what are non-economic activities? These are those activities which are done but for only self-consumption. That means they are not producing for the selling purposes. Rather, they are producing only for the family's consumption. For their own family, they are producing. So that is called as your non-economic activity. So these can be consumption and processing of primary product and own account production of the fixed assets. That means if a person is producing, say, sugar cane and is converting the sugar cane into jaggery, which is good, and that is only for the self consumption of the family, not for any selling purposes. So that activity comes under the non-market activities. Now we come to the, in the same part, we have the next part over here, which you can see just below that blue box, which I'll show you with the pencil tool. You can see that. This is the paragraph now we are going to do. So due to the, in the society, when you see most of the people uh, at home or even in the society, in your neighborhood, if you will look around, you will see that most of the women, they stay at home, and most of the men, they go out for work. Maybe the trend is a little bit changing. Nowadays, few women are going even to work outside, but that I'll discuss later. But most of the people, you might have seen your grandmothers, etc., if you will see, they used to stay at home and the men used to work outside. Why is this so? What do you call this as? This is called as division of labor. This is called as division of labor. Now, who has done this division of labor? This has been done many centuries before in our historic, it is called as historical and cultural reasons. In the past, it was thinking that the women should do only the household chores and the domestic chores or the household chores, and it is the men who should go out and work. So that same thinking is coming from one generation, it is passing on from one generation to the another generation for years. So that's why the domestic chores are done by women, and it is the men who used to do work in the fields in the earlier days. But some exceptions were there, like Sakal's mother we have seen Sheila. It is not mentioned there, but Sheila, she is working at home. She is doing all the household work, cleaning utensils, washing clothes, etc., etc. And Sakal's father, Bhuta Singh or Bhuta, he was cultivating the fields. So that shows that how the division of labor was done in our society. And if you see Sakal's mother, who is Sheila, who is working at home, do you think, children, she is paid for her work? She is cooking, she is cleaning utensils, etc. Is she paid? No, she is not paid for her work. She is working, but she is not working. She is not paid for her work at all. So she is not contributing for the national income. But if she steps out and works, say you might have seen so many domestic servants who are women. They are coming to your houses, they are cleaning your utensils or cleaning your home, and they are earning an income. So if a woman steps out of her family, she earns an income. But if she renders the same services at home, she is not given any income. So the household work done by the women at home, it is not recognized in the national income because she is not earning anything there. When we come to the another example, Vilas, if you remember, his mother Geeta, she was selling fish and earning an income. So her income is added to the national income. So when the women step out, they earn, that means they are entering into the labor market. That means they are rendering their services for an income. But the difference is, in India, if we see, most often in the past, if because when I talk about present, I know that the present girls are equally earning like the men. But when I talk about little bit past, or when you go to a village, you will see that even if both are working, men and women, it is the women who are earning less, who are given less wages or less income. Because we also see that women in India, on if you compare with the men, their education and skills are lesser than the men. It's because in the past, girls were not allowed to go to the schools. So they remained uneducated. So that is why they are not able to earn a higher income. So that is what is the chapter all about. That education helps individual to make use of the economic opportunities available before him or her. Because there was no proper education for girls, no proper skill training for the girls, they were earning less even if they are working outside. And men are earning higher because they have higher education and also better skills. But today, if you see, what is the difference you see at present? If you see today, we see that even many girls are getting educated and they are also able to earn a good income like men. But still we see that there are only few women who are working, and generally we see that the working women face so many problems in their workplaces. Maybe because they are working in a place where they do not have any security of the work. That means they can be removed anytime. They are earning less income. In some places they do not get any maternity leave. During the delivery of a child, a mother requires leave. Some of the companies, some of the institutions, some of the factories, industries, they do not give these leaves. And also there is no social security for the women. So women cannot work in the nights. We know that there is no security for them. So women with high, so that's the part which the women are facing in many countries, not only in India. But the trend is changing now in some places, in some of the cities, in some of the countries. Women with high education and skill formation are now also paid at par with the men. At par means equal. They are also equally paid with the men. And most of the women, if we see, they enter into those fields where there is security for them. Not only I'm talking about security of their job, I'm talking about security of the women. So if, for example, if a woman works in a call center, she has to work even in the nights, maybe in the midnight she has to come back, which is a high risk. We all know that, especially in a city like Delhi. So that is why many women in the cities, they are entering into the organized sector. Organized means where proper rules and regulations are followed, where there is proper security for the women. For example, teaching and medicine. These are the two fields where today most of the girls or women are entering into. That is why even in a school you will see most of the teachers are the female teachers, because they find here a security of their job, not only their job but also their own self personal also. And Some of the women now are daring even to entering into the scientific and the technological competence also. So that's how we have the division of the labor, which is now the trend is changing because again of the education of the girls. The government is coming up with so many schemes for the education of the girls. So how a quality of a person or how a person's quality comes. There are two things, quantity and quality. Quantity is terms of only money. We can have large wealth, we can have large income, but quality comes only with the education and proper healthcare facilities. So that's the next part, children, that is quality of population. The quality of population depends on the literacy rate, health of a person indicated by life expectancy and skill formation acquired by the people of the country. So how the quality comes among the people, among the population of any country? That comes through the education, that comes through the health of a person. Will do, like if a person is good, well educated, like we have seen in the case of a woman, if woman is well educated and skillful, she can earn equally just like the men. In the same way, if a person is healthy, he will be able to give his complete 100% potential than a person who is not healthy. So life expectancy, we'll do this term. It means how many years a person is expected to live. That is life expectancy rate also we call it as. So the quality of the population ultimately decides the growth rate of the country. If our quality of the population is good, our say we have 100% of population, if 100% of literacy rate we attain in our country, in the same way if we attain a good health status of our country, a higher life expectancy rate in our country, then definitely we call that the population is an asset for the country. And also we say that there is a higher growth rate of the country. We have done example in the last video that Japan, which has invested money in the education and healthcare of the people, they are now one of the developed countries. It is because their population is an asset for them. But in India, we have not achieved that 100% of literacy rate. But definitely, if we see Kerala, in India, the most literate state it is. It has achieved near about 94% of the literacy rate, because of which it is also called as one of the developed state. But not the whole country. If we compare with Haryana or UP, you will see that there is very less literacy rate in these states. So that is how the quality of the population decides the growth rate of the country. If ours is a very well literate population and healthy population, then our development will be very fast. So let's see that how government of India has developed this education or the literacy rate of, it has increased the literacy rate of our country by adopting various measures. So we go back to the story of Sakal. When Sakal in his initial years, his parents had put some amount of money, invested some amount of money in his education and health, because of which when he had grown up, he got a good job as well as salary. So not only for his family he is able to earn, Sakal's education is contributing even to the society. It enhances the national income. It enhances the cultural richness and increases the efficiency of the governance. If the people are educated, they will spread education further. So it will enhance our income. Even the society will also change. So we are going to change the culture and we become more good in behavior also if we are educated. Definitely there will be a difference between the educated person and an uneducated person in their behavior, if you see. And it will increase the efficiency of governance, because when we will become aware, because if we are educated, we will be aware of what our government is doing. And then the government will also work efficiently also, because then at that time it will not be able to cheat the people, because now the people are no more uneducated, they are educated. So that's how the education helps in enhancing national income, cultural richness, and the efficiency of the governance. There is a provision made for providing universal access, retention, and quality. That means in whole of our country, the government has taken certain steps to spread this education in whole of our country, so that the quality of the population can become better in our country. There are graphs also, children. I will show you the graphs also. Then we will talk about that, even the figures which are given here, that how much the government has invested upon education in our country, and what all new schemes the government has started to enhance education in our country. And I also want, before I do this part, that you all also find out the new steps which are not given in the book, obviously, the steps taken by the current government of India for enhancing the girl education, especially for enhancing or for increasing literacy rate, what steps are taken by the current government, and also especially in regard to especially the girl education, what steps the government has taken. So when I'll take the class, the next class, not next video I'm talking about, when I take the next online class, I'm going to ask you, so you should be ready with the programs initiated by our current government. And next class or in the next video, I'm also going to discuss about the graphs and some more figures also. And children, those who are using their siblings books, old books, please note down the new figures, or you can even click a pic and keep it with you and save this, because that is why economics we do from the book, textbook, because every child, many children are having the different books of different editions, but we are using the latest edition over there. So you all have to keep in pace with the latest edition, or you can note down the figures, or you can click the pics and keep it with you. So that's all, children, for this video. In the next class, we will continue with the quality of population, especially what programs have been initiated earlier for the upliftment of the literacy rate in our country, and then followed by the health also, that is how health was developed in our country. So there are lots of figures which we will do in the next video, children. So have a good day and listen to this video again and again, so that you can easily get what has been done here. That's all, children. Have a good day.